rap song. Can I get you to do some of that?
If I can remember it.
So, I was looking at some of that, and, some simple stuff about keeping your voice in shape, because I DJ at a club and my voice is kind of jacked up too, so how you keep yours in shape, and some simple stuff, not specifics about, what happened with the labels, but, how that's kind of fair in these days.
Yep, cool.
So tell me when you're recording, we'll be ready to go.
I'm good to go.
It's Planet X. I actually host, before we get this started, I host a metal show on our local rock station. We play you guys.
Awesome.
So I've actually, I've been into you guys for a long time, so that's kind of
Awesome,
cool.
man.
So, Planet X, sitting down with Brian Fair from Shadows Fall. And your new record, Retribution, was out in 2009, which means, based on kind of your general schedule for putting out stuff, you should be not too far.
Yeah, honestly. Right after this, we're going to go home after Mayhem and start writing. We may do one more tour at the end of the year. We're not sure yet, but we're at least going to start writing right when we get home, because we're going to be home for at least a month or two.
Right.
So we figured instead of just sitting around at the bar, I might as well get back to work.
Well,
we want to try and get this one out pretty quick, too. These days, there's just so many bands, and kids' attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. That it's
the ADD generation.
Yeah, we don't want to take our foot off the gas and have 2.5 years in between records or something like that. So we just want to try and get the ball rolling right when we get back.
Okay, so now that the new record, you guys put it out yourselves, kind of on your own label.
Yeah.
How's that going? I know you guys, you were on Century, then you switched to Atlantic. You jumped off Atlantic after one record. How did that go?
With Atlantic, we signed one with an option, and instead of putting it out through the traditional means, they were actually kind of downsizing a lot, and honestly, everyone we signed with was kind of gone from the label within the year that we'd been there. So we renegotiated with Warner Brothers to do a distro deal instead of a traditional label deal. So we kept the same retail and manufacturing side of it, which is honestly what major labels do best, is get you into stores for cheap and all that. But we handled the everyday stuff, the promotion, all that, and we were able to hire people that were kind of understood our career a little bit more than some of the people at Atlantic. They were more used to kind of putting a lot of money into one big radio single and videos, whereas we're more of a band that tours, and we could have made 5 videos for the price of the one we made, and stuff like that. We were just kind of sick of being unrecouped and all that. So they were cool enough to renegotiate, which worked out amazing for us, because not only did we get an advance from them when we signed, we got an advance to kind of do a new record, but through our own label. So it kind of worked out. We almost double dipped,
You're definitely much happier doing your own thing now.
Yeah, well, there's no more wasting money on certain things or waiting weeks to get approval on something. And we've done small label, big label, and our own label, and so we learned all the things that work for a band like us. So. But more and more bands are doing it. Like Down just did a deal like this. Clutch did a deal like this. So bands that have been around for a while are able to kind of work out their own deal, because the music industry is in complete shambles.
Yeah.
And panicking. So.
I mean, I've even heard bands for example, we just had Chevelle down here a while ago. A big tour with Chevelle, Shinedown, and even those guys were saying that when anybody asks them what should we do to get signed, they're like, by all means, don't get signed.
Don't even bother. Right? Yeah, for young bands, the traditional record deal doesn't make any sense right now, because really all it is a loan to begin with. And nowadays, when you can get your music out to people through the internet or whatever it is and get on tours, you don't really need that kind of traditional record deal. And it's now all they want you to do is sign a 360 deal where they own your publishing, your merchandise, your everything. You're probably gonna give them a pint of blood, who knows? So it's
maybe.
And instead of waiting to see what happened with the industry while everyone's trying to figure it out, we figured we'd be proactive and just try and come up with our own business model. So
I saw a big deal with that. Now this happened years ago, but it's kind of along the same vein. A couple of the guys who played with Ozzy back when he was doing the Blizzard of Oz record, when they re-released all that stuff, they got cut out of the deal. So instead of having to pay those guys, they just re-recorded those guys' parts and said, sorry.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You had performance rights on it, but you don't have writer's credits, so you don't get any of that money once we redo it.
Well, it is the music industry and music business, and they're looking at their bottom line. They're trying to make as much money as they can off you, so if you don't know what's going on, they're going to try and screw you.
Now, I once sat down with Mark Hunter from Chimera. I'm sure you've met him a couple times.
Oh, yeah.
He kind of lumped you guys in a positive way in kind of the last great wave, in his own words, last great wave of American heavy metal. You guys, Killswitch, Chimera, Mastodon. Do you kind of agree with that?
Well, we all came up at the same time, like us and Lamb of God and Killswitch and Chimera. We were all playing shows in the late '90s together when metal was if you weren't new metal with a DJ and then you weren't, there wasn't anything going on, and besides in the underground. And we were kind of bands that are just playing small club tours and teaming up together, and it just slowly built all together. So we definitely feel like a kinship to all those bands, you know.
Right.
Everyone was doing something. What was cool though is no one sounded like each other, you know. Like Mastodon didn't sound anything like Killswitch Engage and like all that, you know. So it was cool that there was a lot of bands coming up together, but taking it like the metal genre into totally different directions.
It seemed
so
like
there wasn't
you
a
guys
sound, you know. It was just an era.
It seemed like you all kind of got lumped kind of unfairly in that metalcore genre, but within that genre, everybody kind of had their own thing. Killswitch was a little more melodic, and you guys were thrashier, and
and Lamb of God was just more straight up brutal, and Mastodon just went to complete outer space.
do you see metalcore becoming kind of that next, you know, taboo phrase?
Well,
kind of
it kind of already is, you know, and that's the thing with us. We always just thought we were a metal band. Like, we played with hardcore bands, and we kind of had more of maybe like a DIY ethic. Well, we never really sounded like... to me, hardcore is still like the Bad Brains and Youth of Today and like Minor Threat, like real fast, old school stuff. So to me, when people say that we like have a hardcore sound, I'm like, oh no, we sound like a thrash metal band.
To me, you guys are thrash. You guys are the next kind of incarnation of thrash, which seems to be making kind of a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, totally, it really is, which is cool. And what's cool is a lot of the original bands are still out there touring. You know, Exodus and Testament and all those bands, and Death Angel are still out there touring. But then you have this younger generations of bands like Warbringer and stuff like that that are bringing that kind of traditional sound. So we didn't want to be a retro band though, so we did always bring in new elements, but yeah, we always just, honestly, at the end of the day, we consider ourselves a metal band. Yeah. There's a million subgenres and hyphens and shit. It's like,
everything's kind of cyclical anyway. Yeah, exactly. You know, a style's gonna go away and it's gonna come back eventually. You know, that eventually that DJ, that down-tuned Korn-ish sound will come back.
That's what's great. Watching right now, watching Korn on Mayhem just kill it every night, and the crowd going nuts. You're like, wow, you know, it's still. And they're like, now there's even bands like, you know, Hollywood Undead and stuff that are kind of bringing back this kind of newer, like new metal kind of vibe. It's weird. Yeah. Everything does come around. So
I love
grunge will be back a few years after that. You know.
Yeah. There's a couple of bands out there that even are taking the Hollywood Undead scene a little farther and going as gangster rap as they can go and mixing it with metal. It's kind of, you know, not particularly, you know, it's not my style, but at the same time, it's cool in its own right.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And kids are going to always just be looking for something to, you know, just do a little different. You know, they're going to have like a throwback to the past, but you just take it to somewhere else. And like, if everyone, that's the thing is right now, even with the whole metalcore scene, the reason it's becoming kind of taboo is because there's a million bands doing the same idea over and over again, where they're like, when we all started, there was no agenda for success. You know, no one was making money doing what we were doing, so it wasn't like, now bands see bands like, you know, Lamb of God and Killswitch were getting really big, so they're like, oh, if we take 2 parts of that, 2 parts of this, then we'll actually be able to, you know, be successful.
But do you think at the same time the kind of ease to put your music out there kind of feeds into that whole thing when you can sound like a couple of these bands and put your stuff out there easly in front of people? It kind of feeds into it.
It does. That's why the scene gets really big, and then it kills itself. You know, like I always call it the trickster model, where every genre gets to the point where there's the like young kid band version of it that ruins it. You know, like with glam metal, it was Trickster came out and like they were these little 15-year-old kids doing glam metal, and boom, it was dead. Pop punk, the same thing happened. All of a sudden, you had these little teeny bopper versions of it. Done. You know, grunge the same way. With it was like all these young, you know, like the little Hanson version of like, you know, whatever that you know, genre is, and then it's over. You know, and that's not cool anymore. As soon as there's the Disney version, it's over. You know? So it'll happen with metalcore. It'll happen with, you know, deathcore. It'll happen with everything. You know, at some point, it gets to the point where you're like, all right, we've ruined it. You know?
It gets cheeseball and it's done.
And it's done.
All right, so I wanted to ask you now a little more of a personal question. You went to Boston University, studied lit. You know, are you? Obviously, you're back here in the bus, kind of chilling by yourself. Are you a party guy? You sit and read heavy books?
We definitely party a decent amount. I read on tour. I brought a bunch. I just finished a Kurt Vonnegut novel, and I'm rereading To Kill a Mockingbird again right now. But yeah, this tour though, we got a lot of our friends. We got Lamb of God, Chimera, Hatebreed, all these bands on Mayhem with us. So there's been a good amount of party nights, but it's also been a 9-week tour, and if you party every day, you're just not gonna be able to make it. Like,
you're gonna burn yourself
tonight's
out.
Definitely like we got an 11-hour drive. I'm like, you know, I'm gonna watch a little Family Guy and go to bed. You know.
Yeah.
But tomorrow we only got like 4 Mayhem left, so those are all gonna be ragers. You know, like, cause you got to get it in while you can.
Right.
Also, we're done at 4 o'clock every day, so you're like,
what do I do for the rest of the afternoon? You're like, then you do the press junket for the rest of the day, and you're exhausted.
And then after that, it's just time to party. So.
Yep. Now we talked about this before we started doing this interview. One of the big things that got you started was your little radio jingles and stuff. Do some of the energy conservation rap song.
I wonder if I can even remember.
Do it. This is
Well,
for our listeners.
It was a contest for Massachusetts, like Mass Electric, the company, like wanted a radio jingle, and me and my two friends, with Eric Benson and Jason Williams, we had a little Casio keyboard and did our little energy conservation rap with just like some setting on the on the rhythm thing.
Do it.
Oh, I gotta try and see if I can remember any of it.
I would try to
turn out the lights
beatbox
when you leave the room. More energy lost will be our doom. I can't.
Come
There's
on.
gotta be some more.
You were on a roll.
I'll try and remember before the end of the interview. I'll get the wheels spinning.
We'll get this whole thing.
I wish I had an MP3 version of it. I'd send it to you.
I might even beatbox it for you.
I can't remember any of it. I'll try it. It'll come back to me.
All right.
It's been about 20 years. So.
Well, I talk. How do you keep your voice set? I mean, you're pretty raspy now, but on a daily basis, this is a day in and day out thing for you. How do you keep it from getting to the point where you just you can't go on stage that night?
Yeah, you got to really. It's kind of like any other physical thing. The more you do it, you do build up a tolerance and some strength, but you also have to kind of like take care of it a little bit. I warm up usually every day, do a little Melissa Cross warm up, but also try and just use the PA to your advantage. You don't need to like be, if it hurts, you're doing something wrong, like you really are, so you got to find your comfort zone and know where your range is, where you're not going into like the damage like zone. I see some, especially younger bands go out there and the kids just blasting every scream as brutal as he can. You can feel it shredding, and they usually last like 2 days on tour,
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's also really one of the key things, especially in these summer tours, is staying as hydrated as possible. The more water you're drinking, the better your chance you have of not losing your voice. And there are even days when I wake up where I can barely talk right out of bed, and after like 3 or 4 bottles of water and maybe a little tea, and it kind of just bounces right back. So, but it is tough, especially in this style of music. You're gonna beat up your throat pretty good. Like, I'm sure I have some serious scar tissue on the throat at this point.
I keep hearing the horror stories about the throat surgeries where like 1 out of 10 are botched.
Yeah, luckily I haven't had to do anything like that yet, but I always do try and like really stay conscious of knowing that, like not doing the damage, because that's the thing. It's not like you can change your strings or the tubes in your amp and be right back ready to go. If your voice is shot, you're shot. Like, it just takes time and recovery, and the only thing you don't have on tour is time.
Right.
There's a show tomorrow,
Besides the random stupid interview like this, do you get to just relax and not do anything, like just shut down and not talk for the night?
So if I'm hurting, then I will. Like, I'll just when we were out on tour with Damage Plan, 2004, I actually had strep throat that led to full laryngitis, so I just sat there with my notebook all day. And we didn't cancel the show, though. We had to alter the show.
Right.
I would do the first 2 songs, like explaining like I'm shot, but like I'm gonna just, we don't want to cancel.
Yeah.
We would do 2 songs. Then Pat from Damage Plan sang a song. Peter from The Haunted sang a song. We did an instrumental song, and then I sang the last one. Just try to get the crowd to sing and that. But it was better than canceling because the other 4 dudes in the band could play. So
I remember seeing you guys at this point now. It's probably like 4 years ago. You were playing a little venue in Greensboro, North Carolina. I remember you saying that you were really sick and you were hawking your germs all over the all over the country. I remember that specifically.
Yeah.
I actually met you that night. So that was pretty cool.
I've definitely gotten some people sick on that. That's the thing. When you are sick on tour, there's no like sub list you can call. There's no one's taking your shift.
Unless you're
just throw a mop on some dude, push him out there, and be like, yeah, you're Brian tonight. Go for it.
Unless you're Howard from Killswitch, you can call up Phil and say,
exactly.
hey, you want to come on tour with us for a while? That would be cool. I'm going to take some time off. You do the shows.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all I had. And if you come up with any more of the energy conservation rap, come on, I want to hear this.
I'm trying to.
I do too.
Turn off the lights when you leave the room. More energy lost won't be our doom. Energy runs our automobiles. Rapping this rap tells you how we feel. Energy conservation. Whew. There's like 4 verses, but I can't remember any of them. But I remember, at least I got that part out.
All right. Sit down with Brian Fair from Shadows Fall. It's Planet X.